a lot of the work that we do here is to do with personal branding, really. It's about telling your personal story to build trust with people who might be interested in working with you, if not now, into the future. And obviously, it kind of gets my goat where, you get marketing professionals who say that, storytelling is the right tactic for every single business. And I just don't think it is. I think if you're like a demand-driven business, if you're like a locksmith or a plumber, like you bearing your soul and sharing your story, like, it might play a role in some part of your marketing, but it's probably not the thing that you need to do first. Like you probably need to build up case studies. Like there is a use case for this. Another use case is for branding your business and telling the story of your brand and infusing story throughout the messaging that your brand puts out. So I'm really pleased to have Felice Ayling on the call today. So Felice is another storytelling professional and runs a business called The Band Consulting. So Felice, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob. That's really, sorry, do you want me to just do the intro?
Yeah. So the first question
I was going to
ask was, could you share a little bit more for the people listening about who you are, what you do, and how you got into it?
Yeah, of course. So, so Felice Ayling, I work with businesses to, bring their story to life, but also use storytelling in their marketing. So the reason behind it is, using storytelling in marketing is just far more effective than using, a lot of fact-based content. And with, the amount of content that people are being bombarded with, we're kind of very much in that content shock phase. The old style of marketing just doesn't work anymore. So I've been in marketing just over 20 years, started in comms and PR. So telling stories has very much been, a part of my career from day one. So I've worked agency side, so that's given me access to a whole bunch of different brands, different industries, different size companies. And what has been true, I think, through all of that is brands that have something to say will perform better than those that don't. So I left my corporate job 2 years ago. Part of the reason behind that, again, was I was, sort of working as a marketing director. You're doing everything. So, sort of looking after, website performance and CRO and PPC and offline advertising and event support. So
I've had one of those roles, and I've never had to juggle so many plates at the same time.
Exactly that. And I think I felt like I was spending more of my time writing board reports than I was actually doing the work. And the impact. And so I just decided, what part of that marketing do I really love? What part am I really good at? What part gets me really passionate? And what do I see as being a skill that isn't actually as widely available as something like, advertising management or copywriting or and that for me was storytelling, this idea that you can bring brands to life and create a more emotional connection with your audience through telling stories. And, as you've, quite rightly pointed out, storytelling, telling a brand story, there's so many different stories that you can tell as a business. So just telling a brand story isn't necessarily what every brand needs. An origin story or, those may be good for networking, peer-to-peer stuff. Or if you're looking for investment or you're looking to grow and expand, the brand story becomes more important. But for me, it's about everyday stories. So as you say, if you're a plumber or an electrician and you're looking to drive, new customers, you may be creating content, say on TikTok, where you're sort of showing people how to do certain things or, building tips or what to
customer
avoid.
Customer stories is maybe a big one for them as well.
And customer stories, Because I think the idea is that even if you're a service or demand-based business, somebody is looking to achieve something by bringing you in. And it's not just about the work that you do, it's about how you do it. So what do you like to work with as a person? If you bring somebody, in and they're in your home for the day doing a piece of work, it's nice if you can get a sense of what they're going to be like or who they are, before they arrive. So but like you say, there are some things, Amazon doesn't need a brand story. People go to them because of the product range and it's cheapest and they get it quickest. So there are going to be some businesses that for whom storytelling isn't a big thing in their day-to-day and in their content. So it's going to depend on the company how important it is to them. But for anyone looking to stand out in the market, they need to have some sense of who they are, what makes them different, and what their customers want from them, and making sure that they really highlight that and focus that in their marketing, in their messaging, and their content, and the customer experience.
I think there's a decision at some point where it's like, do you operate a business primarily, even if you're a solopreneur, do you operate as a business brand? So do I operate as story copywriters, or do I operate as me? Do I brand myself as Rob Drummond? And maybe that's sort of defining the distinction here between where is the voice of the business coming from? Is it coming from a founder or maybe a small group of founders, or is it coming from the brand as it's kind of presented to the world?
So I think it's going to be both. I mean, if you're a solopreneur or if you're a small business run by a founder that has a vision, that story is going to be driven by the founder. However, for the businesses I work with, and my number one message is the story should be driven by your customers. So your story is part of that, sort of broader narrative, how you came into business. However, not everyone's story is that interesting. Some people, saw a gap in the market and they wanted to make loads of money. And that's really their motivation behind, what they're doing. But in terms of then how that starts to evolve and how you then start bringing customers into that experience, it's about building a story around them, and I talk about, making your customers the hero of your business, not you. And then actually your achievements and your accolades and where you are and, how many clients you've got is kind of secondary. That's very much a sort of, you talk about hearts and minds. That's very much a minds thing. That's your kind of logical decision making. That's where all of that's going to come in. But for most customers, they are walking around every day just thinking about themselves. They're thinking about themselves, and they have goals and dreams and desires, and that's what they're working on, that what's going to better my life or the life of the people around me that I love. And if you, as a business, you come in and you step into that person's world and you say, oh, check us out, look at how great we are, that you're not going to have much impact. It's going to fall on deaf ears. Whereas if you step into someone's space and say, that thing that you really want, that we know that you want, we can help you get it. And so understanding your customers and building your story, I talk about your story, the big story, and your stories, the ones that you tell every day. If you can really build those stories around your customer, so your customer's the hero, that's when you'll get people, customers knocking down your door and wanting to work with you, and really engaging in what you're putting out there, far more so than if you're putting out another post saying we won this award last week. Like, who cares?
There's a reorientation around focus being on the customer. So I've heard Donald Miller describe this in similar terms, where he describes, so the customer is like Luke Skywalker in the story, and you are the Muse character. So you're the Yoda or Obi-Wan.
Yep.
You're the elder figure that is kind of the helper character, but the focus isn't so much on you.
Yes, exactly. So you are you as, and it is quite, and it's a shift, and it's actually, a lot of businesses struggle with that more than they think they will, because most companies see themselves as the hero. We're the thing that comes in and solves all your problems for you. And it's like, actually, most people don't actually want to be sold to like that. I don't want you to tell me that I can't do this on my own. I want you to make me feel like I can do this on my own. And actually, I'm making the decision to pick you as the partner and as the guide to help me get that, because I know that you know where I'm trying to go to. So yeah, I actually put it out on Monday or Tuesday, a post talking about just that, and saying, you are the guide, the mentor, the catalyst. You're not the hero.
You're the expert, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, the examples I gave were, you know, you're the Obi-Wan to their Luke, you're the Kit to their Knight Rider. I don't know if you're old enough to know Knight Rider, to Michael Knight. You're the Haymitch to their Katniss. You know, it's very much about saying, we know what you're trying to do. You can get there, but if you work with us, we'll get you there quicker.
I've seen this kind of structure work really well. You know, when someone first comes across your website for the first time, and I've interviewed a copywriter called James Daniel for the show before, and he has a business that helps people develop video scripts. And it's trying to create this engagement very quickly within the first sort of 5 seconds or so that establishes that, yes, that it captures their attention by making them the hero of the story, I guess. But it makes them want to stick around. But then what we've been kind of arguing is that once people then do stick around, then before they sign on the dotted line, they probably do want to hear a bit more about you.
Yeah.
Because they want to know that they can trust you.
Yep.
And that, you know, especially if they are going to work quite closely with you and invest a significant amount of time and or money, which probably describes all of my clients. And yeah, so your personal story very much does still play a role, but this idea of reorientating the initial comms around the customer, I think is quite important. I think it's, you know, if you want to gain traction when someone first comes across you, whether that's they scroll by an initial thing that you put on LinkedIn, whether it's someone clicked through to your website for the first time, it's like, it probably isn't helpful for it to all be about you.
Yeah. And I mean, how many times do you see that you land on a company page and the first thing you see is, you know, I think the example I used yesterday was like, you know, 1 million sold in 20 countries, you know, or, you know, UK's award-winning whatever. And so that first thing, and I do understand that. I do understand the rationale behind that, and that actually probably would have been okay 10 years ago.
Those things are really important to somebody who's about to sign on the dotted line, but for someone who is just a first-time web visitor, they don't care yet.
No. So like I said, those things are super important, but the way most people purchase is it's hearts first, then minds. So they definitely need that information. They definitely need to know more about what you do. They're going to want to know, you know, how much it costs. Do you deliver to me? How long's the course? You know, whatever it is, they're going to need all of that information, but it's fact-based content. But if you're leading with that, if that's your leading message, you're going to have to really work hard to get people into your website. Or the people that you're going to be attracting are people that already know who you are and already know that they want it. But I think leading with that is putting you at the forefront. You're centering yourself in the story. You're centering yourself in the solution, as opposed to centering your customer in that story. Like, somebody wants to know straight away. They want to feel that their goal, their desire is understood. And sometimes it's not necessarily the goal that they have verbalized or said out loud. And when I do my workshops, the example that I use, and I deliberately use this one because it's kind of boring, is I talk about, for an example, if you're a company and you sell Excel courses, like, can't think of anything more mundane and boring than selling.
I'm already bored just at the mention of it, but
Excel courses. Yeah. I mean, unless you're like a super data nerd, you're not going to get excited about it. And so if you think about marketing that course, you think, well, okay, what are my customers' needs? Well, they need an Excel course. What are the information they have around that? They need to know, what's the format? Is it online or in person? How long is it? What am I going to learn in that? What level am I going to come out at? How much does it cost? How do I sign up? All really, really useful and important information. People aren't going to buy if they don't know how much it costs. They're not going to buy if they don't know how long it is. However, if that's your lead message around your marketing, and maybe you're maybe you're the cheapest out there, but if that's your lead message, if that's what you've got in your job ads, in your Google ads, your social ads, if that's what's on your website, you're not actually centering your client's needs in that.
There's no emotional spark there, is there?
No emotion. And so it is important to dig a little bit deeper and think, what are the motivations for somebody taking the course? What is it that they're trying to improve in their lives by taking this course that you have? And that could be, for example, someone's just got a promotion and now Excel and using data and mining data and creating reports and giving those to their big boss. They're doing a lot more of that, and they're a bit scared.
They fudged over it in the interview, but now it's time to to knuckle down and
they don't want to admit that they don't know what they're doing. And so, and they feel this weight, or they end up spending way longer than they need to, creating documents or creating graphs or creating reports or filtering information. And so their desire is they want to impress their boss. They want their boss to see them as competent, and see them as doing a good job, and they want to feel confident that they know what they're doing, that when they're presenting information, they've done it correctly. The information they're putting in is right. They're not going to be sitting in a meeting presenting data that someone's going to call out, well, that doesn't look right. So that's the motivation for them doing that. And so you start speaking to them on that level and just say, make yourself indispensable at work, present data that everyone loves, and, make yourself look amazing to your boss, make them their right, make yourself their right hand, their go-to. If you start marketing around that messaging, then all of a sudden you're tapping into people's desire, and it's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. And so you create this connection with you as a brand, because you're speaking to them where they live. You're speaking to them on a deeper level, and you're speaking to them around that future person that they're trying to become by engaging with your product. So even something as mundane as selling an Excel course, if you think about, if you're on social media and that pops up in an ad, and that's why you hadn't maybe even thought about taking a course, but someone's come and understood the unspoken problem that you have, and gone, here's a solution.
And you kind of feel it in your bones that that even if it isn't going to be right now, that this is the right thing. You feel that this is the right thing for you, and you feel that before you kind of rationalize it with logic, and then you rationalize it by the features and the pricing and whatnot.
Yeah. And they're not even aware that you've done it. Do you know what I mean? You've got them, and they feel like, oh, that's the thing that I worry, about late at night. And I go, oh my God, it's a no-brainer. Get me at it. And also, then there's probably, even within that, there's other scenarios. Someone that just really hates it. And so, if they come across a piece of content that says, that job that normally takes you 2 hours, here's how you can do it in 10 minutes. And you go, oh my God, sign me up. So, once you start actually understanding what the pain points and goals are of your customers, and those deep desires that they don't always verbalize, the things that they worry about, late at night, the things that they want to improve that don't fit with that idea of the person that they are, the thing that they want to impress their friends with. If you can speak to those, not only do you have marketing that works, you can probably cut out 90% of the information that you put out. That's the big thing.
It's quite brave to do that, because you as the product owner feel like you need to put out all of this information, otherwise no one's going to buy it. And I think it's quite a brave step to just focus on the emotional pain points and craft a story to engage people around that. Keep focused on that.
Yeah. And also, if it's too much of a stretch as well, you can always, the great thing about advertising is that you can A/B test stuff. So, if you are, I think Steve Jobs, famously, didn't he when he left Apple, he went to Pixar and he came back, and all of a sudden he was telling stories around Apple and stories around the product. And they said, I think when the first iPhone launched, he took out like a 14-page advert listing all of the features and the spec and all this information about how amazing. And that's what happens when you get nerds advertising. I think, and a lot of businesses are like that. They have all this list of things that their thing does, and all these cool widgets and gadgets, and, and they think that that's what's going to sell the product. And then I think when he came back, the next ad that went out was one page, and it just said, think differently. Because of the work he'd done around telling the story, all the launch stuff around Apple, and we know the story since. But this idea that if you understand what the person at the end of that cycle is trying to achieve, Apple did a great job at flattering its audience. I'm
the best job, I think.
The best job, yeah. And they understood that those people wanted to set themselves apart. They wanted, for them, the Apple, here I am surrounded by Apple products, that those people saw themselves as people that thought differently. And he said, we understand you. We want to give you something different because you deserve it. You're special. You're different to everyone else. We lapped it up, buy laptops that are 5 times the price of anything Dell puts out. I will say they work better. I just think they work better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's just not 5. It doesn't work 5 times better.
It doesn't work 5 times better, no. And so obviously that's a big example. But
I want
again,
to just go back to the A/B split test, because I think that's a really good idea. And
yes.
I think that so I've done enough coaching in archery, and mostly archery really. And one of the things in archery is teaching people where to draw back to. And actually most people who are beginning archery don't draw back far enough. And I say to them, like, you have to draw back, you have to go over the line to know where the line is.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things with the story. It's like you have to lay it on too thick, like go too high on the emotion to learn where the line of too far is, because it's probably way further away than you think it is.
Yeah. And this thing, I know, you hear this quite a lot. People sort of say, oh, emotion has no place in business. Most people purchase out of emotion. They really do. Most purchase decisions are driven by emotion. The logic does need to be there. The information, the facts need to be there, but they are secondary. Most purchases are done out of some kind of emotional driver. And so if we're actually taking all of that emotion out of our marketing and our information, our sales, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because we're not speaking to people, we're not speaking to them to the things that are actually going to make them want to purchase. You can baffle people with science and overload people with information, and the chances are you're just going to put them off. You're not going to capture their interest.
We want to hear more from the brands that we buy from and enjoy buying from, and that could be on a B2C basis. It could be on a business level, B2B. I think that obviously the factual based information stuff obviously plays a role, but I think it is a supporting role. It's not the primary role of your marketing.
Yeah.
I think there's a real demand for that. I think surely this is marketing that is worth getting out of bed and doing as well.
It's for marketers, it's so much more interesting as well. And every single marketer has or is, working for a business that is forcing them to put out bland marketing. And they'll keep.
There's only so many times you can say the same thing as well. It's like I have about five core messages. That's really it. So there's only so many times I can say that over and over, and someone potentially might stay subscribed to me for quite a long time before they raise their hand and go, yeah, actually I trust Rob, but it's time to discuss a project. So you can't just bang over the same things over and over.
No, and also I think if you're then looking to grow or you want to see performance, you end up having to just escalate everything. So spend more, broaden audiences, and all of that costs money. So, I think for me, this, storytelling comes down to absolutely maximizing every penny that you.
I think it's a targeting thing as well, because in telling this story, you're pinpointing exactly the right person, and you're doing the hard work. It's much easier to have a scattergun approach and to have the big Facebook budget and to just throw money at the problem. This is the opposite of throwing money at the problem. This is doing the hard work.
Yeah, it's doing the hard work. And and again, you'd speak to a lot of businesses and they go, we know that there's this fear of cutting people out, so that's not going to speak to everyone. That's a common myth across any marketing activities, that you should be targeting everyone. You can't, not unless you've got billions to spend on marketing. But yeah, we talk about, I talk about client avatars and, ideal clients, dream clients. And you just have to go so much deeper than demographics. And you can have more than one, but each one of those client avatars, you need to know them as if they were a friend or, a family member. You need to know, what are their, what are the key attributes that they are as people? Do they take risks, or do they like to play it safe? You know, are they planners, or they thrive in chaos? You know, do they want other people to see them as good people, or do they not really care about that so much? You know, do they only care about the people around them? You know, what motivates them? What keeps them awake at night? Because the better picture you can have of that person you're talking to, the better able you are to speak directly to them.
And it feels like if you've got 3 avatars and if you just place one of them in your marketing, it feels like you're kind of cutting out 2/3 of the potential audience. But I don't think it actually works like that, because I think you speak so directly to the person who does match that avatar close enough, that you're going to see much better results overall by focusing down like that.
And also, I think if your avatars are completely different, then the chances are where you're marketing and the way you're marketing to them is going to be different. So, you know, you will have that opportunity. You know, if you're running social ads and you've got 2 completely different age groups, you target it down and have a different message for this and a different message for that one. But often what you find is once you start nailing down these avatars, you find that there's a composite set of characteristics that cuts across all of them. And also by speaking to that avatar directly, not only do you capture everyone that fits into that boat, but you also capture the peripherals. So there will be people that don't exactly fit that, but have aspirations towards that particular type of person, or they have some crossover. Or the people that they admire, they can see them working with you or see them using your product, and they aspire to, you know, to that kind of, you know, life, you know, that kind of lifestyle, or they see themselves as connected, and so they will purchase for other reasons. So there is this halo effect around your core target audience, and you will pick up all of those people as well.
I have a few different avatars in my business, but I've noticed that all of my clients, I think all of them are all interested in fitness in some way, whether they are runners, whether they are hikers. Taking personal responsibility for your own fitness is a theme across every single one of my clients. So I'm now going through this exercise where, like, so I do barefoot running in the summer, just on grass in parks and fields, and it started because of injury reasons, and then I realized I really enjoy it. And I'm now in the process of like leaning on that a bit more, because people see that, and you know, there's a connection to my message, because you know, running barefoot, there's a connection to the floor, there's a feedback loop, it's an authentic way of moving, and I'm trying to encourage an authentic way of marketing and communicating. But I'm trying to lean on that because it does cross all of my avatars.
Yep. Well, I think also people connect with people on similar interests as well. You know, I think someone sees that you like running and they automatically attribute a set of characteristics to you, and that you're going to, you know, be interested in the same stuff as them. You're going to want to talk about it. You know, there's certain other personality traits that you probably have. And, you know, people like to work with people that they like. You know, that the whole thing with marketing is, you know, the 3 things that you're looking for is that, can I like you? Can I know you? Can I trust you? So stories are a great way of getting that across to people. So like you say, you know, the accolades and you know, all of the logical information is very much around that trust space.
Yeah.
You know, I can trust you because I can see you've been going for a long time. You've worked with big brands. You've worked with customers like me. You've got great reviews. You know, that's all the sort of trust stuff that comes in. But also people get a sense from you, from the content that you put out, you know, what you're like, and how authentic your content, your stories come across. But the other one is that, can I like you and know you? So important. People buy people, especially if you're, you know, like us, you're service based. And people don't want to work with people that they don't like.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't matter how great you are and how much skill you have. You know, when you're working with a client, you need to be able to challenge them. You need them to open up to you. What, you know, the business we're in is getting deep down into people's darkest desires. So they don't trust you. They're not going to tell you anything. So it's so important that people can know us and like us as well as trust us. So putting the stories out there, people are going to make assumptions about who you are and what you're like.
The barefoot running thing was something that I've kind of told more in the background when people are kind of subscribed to my emails and are getting to know me a bit more.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a departure actually for me to consider leading with it as like the first thing people see. So in essence,
it's a mechanism, isn't it? You use the barefoot running. You don't talk about barefoot running as if you're starting to advise people or give tips. Do you use so it's your vehicle for telling stories, mindset shifts, thoughts that you had during the day that is going to connect with people. That's your reflection time.
Yeah, and like the reason I thought about it as you were talking was because a lot of my clients are interested in fitness. Not many of them. I have some that do barefoot running or barefoot walking, but not all of them do. But it's perhaps in the aspirational category of things that they might consider one day.
Yeah.
So then this aspirational thing then fits into the story aspect of how you see yourself in the future. There's a future version of yourself there potentially.
Yeah, it's like people want to be the kind of person that does that. I think I'm the kind of person that wants, I would like to be the kind of person that goes swimming in the sea every day. I don't, because it's really bloody cold. But as soon as it's warm enough, get me straight in there. I'm straight in, and I'll take photos and I'll put it on social media.
Yeah.
I'll be like, first swim of the year, knowing full well there's probably only going to be 2 more. So, we all have these things. There are people out there that want to be those, Instagram perfect homes, and, they will spend a lot of money in order to do that. The chances are it's only tidy for the photo that they take, and the rest of the time it's complete chaos.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it's, people don't actually live that way. But if your product and your service can help them feel like they're a little bit closer to that idea of themselves and who they are, you make them feel as if they're almost there, or it's there just waiting to come out. That's when people really want to engage with your business and your brand. Just selling them stuff because, focusing on that kind of surface level of, won't this look nice in your home? And it's like, that's not really why people engage.
I think what this really comes back to is people stumble across you for the first time and they feel like you are the right person. You understand the problem at hand better than they do. You've encapsulated that in a story to begin with.
Yeah.
They feel first that they're in the right place. And it's about creating that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's creating that feeling, and then that consistency as well. So again, the bigger the product, the bigger the investment, the longer it's going to take someone to convert. But if you're showing up regularly, so once you've brought them in, it's having that consistent messaging and that consistent reinforcement that you are the right person for them. So showing up with those stories every day, every other day. We've seen that, most recently it's been highlighted so well with the rise of, TikTok. I mean, the businesses that have gone viral and have been boosted, the artists that have been launched on TikTok through 1 minute, 3-minute videos where everything's about storytelling. The content that performs well on TikTok tells a story, even if it's just to entertain you. But the businesses that have gone viral have very much been there sharing their journey of building that business. And whether that's a day-to-day thing or this funny thing happened to me on the way to work today, or whether it's I've started this business because, I'm recovering from cancer. And, so the stories are big and they're little, but told well.
And you can't just drone on about how great you are.
Oh, no. You cannot say how great you are. No. Other people have to say how great you are.
Yeah.
But again, it's that, it's very much about consistently showing up and talking to people in a way that's going to engage them. So there's the other side to it as well, is there's the stories, knowing what the stories are and telling them well, because, people can tell a great story really badly and make it boring.
I think there's a positioning thing as well, where we're trying to position you as a certain thing in your ideal customer's mind, because if you get that right, they associate you in their mind as the person that is the barefoot running guy who does storytelling or whatever.
Yeah.
if you don't get that right in the first place, so my background is in Google Ads, and I've done a range of other things, and I've got a subset of people on my email list who are like, no, Rob is the Google Ads guy, because that's how they came in, and they won't. It doesn't matter what I do.
Yep.
No, I'm still the Google Ads guy. So yeah, you have to get it right in the beginning, I think, and it's that first. I think if you get that right and then back it up with consistency, that's going to kind of pour cement around that perception.
Yeah, but again, coming back to what we were, I know we literally just mentioned A/B testing. We didn't really dig into it. It's okay to test and learn, even if you brought people in with something, and then you're doing something else. That's fine. Those people will drop away if they're not interested. Be prepared to lose people from your audience, because the more you niche down and the more focused you become, the more you are going to find you'll lose people. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about losing people from your connections, your followers, your email, because the people that you're going to get to replace them will be much higher quality and will be much more focused around your ideal client. So don't worry about losing people from your network. If they are not your ideal client, let them go. It's, saves your time trying to market to people that are not interested. But also test it. Ideally, customers, businesses already know who they're marketing to. If they don't know who they're marketing to, they've got way bigger problems than storytelling. If they can't tell you why their customers buy from them, that's a different issue. But if they have a good idea, they can validate. You can do validation with your existing customers, with future customers. Test it out, call people up. Like I said, run A/B tests in your ads, use the different messaging, see which one, gets you more business, see how many more people come to the website. You can A/B test landing page environments. So if we stripped all this out and had a singular message, how would that perform? So there are ways of getting closer.
You don't have to hit a home run straight off the bat, and you can do it with some degree of data and testing as well.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be putting stuff out there that you haven't really kicked around and have other people look at. Well, we've all seen the consequences of somebody putting an ad out without it ever really having gone through a focus group, or it was something, and McDonald's did an ad or something recently that got absolutely slammed, because the ad was, there's a female worker behind the counter, this guy comes in and he buys something and he just sits there basically staring at her. And, the message was basically like, you never know what's going to happen, because he asked her out. And of course, in this, in the current climate, running an ad that's encouraging men to kind of basically harass women in the workplace didn't go down too well.
No.
And so, it is always important if you're thinking
McDonald's ads are normally quite smart as well.
They are, yes, they are, I think, normally quite smart. But again, it's that if you want to take a new angle or a fresh angle on something, you do need to validate.
You need to do some work into it, yeah.
But we did so the company I worked for a little while ago, again, when I first started with them, 90% of their marketing was fact-based information. They had this sort of set of messages that they would put in. And that ran through everything, organic and paid activity, website. And we really wanted to turn that on its head and say, look, we want to build everything around the story that we're telling to people. And this was a high investment, big decision service that we're selling. So, it was very much about how do we connect with people and speak to them on their level. They're trying to, achieve this huge, big thing in their lives. How do we draw them in and give them a sense of what it would be like for them to, if they sign up with us, what's the experience that going to be like? And I think, they'd done a lot of old tried and tested stuff, and everything was, kind of a little bit linear, a very obvious way of trying to communicate things across, just kind of boring. And, people weren't interested in the marketing. And they were still, bringing customers in because they were established as a market leader, but people weren't doing it with love. They were doing it out of necessity. We knew this was going to be a big shift. We didn't have any extra people. We couldn't outsource it. We didn't have any extra budget. And we had to deliver the same level of results while trying to build this new strategy and new campaign. And so what we did is, we made a few test pieces. We made a few initial pieces of content and narrative and story. And then we got a bunch of existing customers and we talked them through it and got them to watch it, and they answered questions. We just did focus groups and a bit of research. And what that did was allow us to make some changes, because immediately we got a bit of feedback going, well, you might want to change that. I'm not 100% sure about that. That doesn't quite feel right. But also we got feedback that had that been a part of the marketing, they actually would have been more likely to sign up. And that in itself is huge. And so, when we then took that to the rest of the senior management, because everyone had to approve, the marketing if we were going to shift it like that. So when I took it to them, we were able to say, we've already spoken to customers and this is what they've said.
Pre-tested on a subset of people without going to the live market, if you like.
Yeah. So we were able to tell that story. We were able to start with the point of people are embarrassed by our marketing. People, our core customers are coming to us, but they're not coming to us because they love the brand. They're not sharing our content. They're not engaged. And they don't want to be part of our marketing. And actually our customers was such an important part of marketing to new customers. We could not get anyone to be in front of a camera or contribute to our socials. Nobody wanted to do it. They were ashamed to even be linked to us as a brand. And so, by starting off with that story and saying, look, we want to shift this, what we want to do is connect with people where they live, like what is it they're trying to achieve here? And what is the thing that connects us all together? And everyone internally, so all of our staff and, all of the people that are connected with the organization, what's the one thing that we all have in common? That's what we need to start marketing to people in. So we, because of all that, we got sign off, we got approval, but the message was very much, you can't spend any more money and we still expect the results that, the targets that we're in. But with that approval and that support, we were able to show, we actually surpassed the targets with the new campaign, but there was all these side benefits. So all of a sudden people wanted to engage, people wanted to be part of it. They wanted to be the next person featured in the series. We had industry, influencers coming to us and wanting to work partnerships with us, loved the campaign so much that they were saying, we want to get involved. How can we get involved? We want to be part of this. We want to support it. So we were getting so much free advertising, free amplification. We were able to join up with these amazing brands because they'd seen the shift and they loved this story. They were like, we want to be part of that story. And so, with the power of storytelling in your marketing is you can do less and get more, so whereas any other, any other area of your marketing, if you want to grow, you have to spend more or do more. You've got to double your social posts, you've got to double your your PPC spend, or you've got to, redesign your website, or create a whole bunch of video content to support it. But if you're telling stories, I think the stat is storytelling posts are 22 times more effective than fact-based. So for companies that are a little bit time poor, or they're investing in marketing and it's just, they're a little bit uninspired, or it's a little bit bland, they're not really getting what they want, can be a real game changer for them to really stand out. You just don't need as much
string to go around the package.
No, because you don't have to bombard people so much with stuff and go, if I just show them this ad 20 times, maybe they'll purchase. And it's like, well, actually, if you show 3 ads, each of them really speaking to, taking them on that journey, the chances are you're going to get way, way more back for it.
I think you're strategically infusing love throughout your marketing. But in order to do that, you've really got to be clear about who it is that you're speaking to, and you've actually got to listen to them. And you've got to put that, and you've got to orientate your marketing so that it's actually about them.
It's about them. Yeah, it's not about you. But at the same time, you've also got to deliver on that promise as well. Yeah. If you don't care about your customers, then you can tell all the stories in the world.
Storytelling doesn't fix foundational problems with the business.
No, you can't polish a turd. That's it's really, really simple. And with social media the way it is, you absolutely cannot hoodwink people into thinking that you're one thing when you're another. But I think for the most part, most businesses do genuinely care about satisfying their customers and fulfilling them. And I think most people that work in companies feel like that as well. You want to spend your time feeling like you're contributing something to somebody's life. You want good reviews. So getting the right customers in the door for your business is another important part of that. If you're marketing to anyone and everyone, then you're getting the wrong clients in the door, you're going to get poor performance and bad reviews. So being able to tell those stories and get someone to the point where they absolutely have to work with you. They have to work with you and they will find a way to work with you. That's where you want to be, is someone beating down your door, not someone going, you've kind of badgered me into it and worn me down, and and I think there's a lot of businesses are dealing with that.
We're at the end of our time, Felice.
Blimey, I feel like we could just talk about this all day.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back for part two.
We'll do a part two. I'm reading that book that you recommended.
Oh yeah,
Building a Story Brand. Yeah, I mean, he's a good writer, isn't he? But I quite enjoy it. I think one thing it's made me realise, because I think there's nothing new in there, but what he has done is being able to put it down into a really solid framework. And it's made me realise that my process is my process. It's just so intuitive now. Yes, I have steps and things that we always look at, but I feel my way through it. And then I started to realize that if I want to expand my business and beyond my minutes and days and hours, I was like, oh, maybe I need to work up a framework, some description. But yeah, I am quite enjoying it.
Good. How can people find out more about your business and stay in touch?
It's me chatting on about book stuff. So I mean, I talk a lot about storytelling and brand building and customer-centric marketing. So people can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. I post pretty much every day. I love meeting new people on there as well. I love networking. I have a website, which is just verban.co.uk. I have Instagram, but there's nothing on it, so I wouldn't bother following me there. LinkedIn is the best place to catch me.
Yep, and you're. I can see that you're active on LinkedIn, and I encourage people to go and connect with you and follow you.
Yes,
I will link to those places from the episode show notes.
Brilliant.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. Let's get session 2 booked in. I did want to ask you about, you specifically work with female entrepreneurs, and I wanted to kind of explore that a bit more. So perhaps we can shelve that for the next conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can do a whole session on it.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, thank you very much.
Lovely. All right, thanks.
And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, speak soon. Bye.